Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. After the Season 5 update, the close range meta has become more competitive than ever, and today we are breaking down all the top options in the close range meta right now, starting first with a few hybrid options, some weapons that work for close and medium range, mainly rifles here that can be built out to be very aggressive. The Volk, of course, is one of those top options. Here initially, we do have the recoil booster. This will make it mad aggressive for close range, helps out with that TTK quite a bit. You really got a couple of options for barrels here. The strafe build, however, with the 287 barrel was nerfed a bit back, and ever since then it's just kind of felt mediocre. I still prefer going for what would be a more ranged barrel, but because this weapon is so aggressive, it works for these close range fights and just makes it feel a little bit more consistent. I got the slate reflector on there. I'm also going to go ahead and run the converted stock. Previously the adjustable was really good for that strafe build. This is still certainly an option, but you're not making the most out of the setup with only certain aspects built for strafe, right? Converted to me just makes this a lot more aggressive in general, and I like the feel of that. For our underbarrel here, I go for skeletal to help out with that ADS, makes it a little bit more snappy and just consistent in general. For the magazine, I go for the Granco 45 specifically for a close range build, obviously increasing that movement speed, that ADS, the TTK in general. I like hollow point here as well, just because the damage, range, and velocity, not really huge losses in close range, so you're getting some better limb damage and not really losing much in all reality. For a rear grip here, I go for tapes to help out that movement speed yet again. If you don't like how the recoil feels here, you could always go for hatched. That's a solid option. This is for a more aggressive build though. Perk 1, you could go for perfectionist, again, if you don't like the control with really no cons, or you can go for fleet, which again helps out that movement speed and makes it more aggressive. And then perk 2, I got on hand for that faster ADS. Very quick, very strong rifle setup that works great for close range. I think the Cooper is another solid choice. You know, maybe before the Season 5 update, I also would have included the AS44 and the Nikita on this list as well, but more than anything, I feel like those weapons are like that mid-range area, not necessarily long range because of their recoil, not necessarily close range because they're a bit slower now, plus the AS44 was nerfed for close range, whereas the Cooper, it's just feeling nice and strong for close range still. Again, just like the Volk, can be built to be very aggressive and also very easy to use. So here, while we are going for close range, I am going to still use the suppressor rather than the recoil booster. Just seems a little bit unnecessary for what this build is. I wouldn't go for the MX though, because this is going to slow you down too much. Instead, I'm going to go for Mercury, which keeps you off the map but also helps out with some of that horizontal control. I am still using the Cooper custom barrel because the rest of this build, just like on the Volk, makes it more aggressive. You can go for the longer barrel here that makes it easier to use. We got the slate reflector on here yet again, skeletal stock for the better movement speed. For our underbarrel, we got the skeletal yet again, so doubling up on the skeletal there. We got 9mm 60, super easy to use, great for close range. We got the compressed rounds, which at these ranges are so easy to use. You know, within 20 meters, the recoil, not really a huge factor. Again, I'm gonna go for taped. Once more, if you don't like the recoil, you could always opt for hatched or polymer or one of the better options there for control. Perk 1, you got some options for sure. You could go for brace for initial control. You could go for tight grip if you wanted to. You could go for fleet if you wanted to. It just comes down to what you value more. A little bit more control either during sustained or initial fire, or better movement. And for an aggressive build, I always go for movement. That's just my level of comfortability. That comes down more to where you are as a player. And then perk 2, again, we got on hand for that faster ADS. Very aggressive despite looking like it might be built more for range because of our longer barrel here. It works. Now, of course, the remainder of the close range meta is filled out by the most competitive SMG meta that we arguably have ever had, starting here with the Type 100. Here we got the recoil booster. I'm honestly going back to my main rapid fire max TTK build with the rapid barrel here. I got the slate reflector, definitely needed that on there because there is a decent amount of bounce. Rather than going for all out mobility here, I do go for the T100 stock for the better horizontal control. I'm also going to go for strife angled here as well to really help out that horizontal movement because there's a decent amount of it. 36 round mags is going to be the best for TTK. 48's a little bit more practical. Just choose depending on your level of comfortability with this weapon. I got some sonic to keep me off the radar here. For the rear grip, you could definitely go a couple of different routes. If you're okay with the recoil after the first two attachments there for horizontal, you could go for tape to get some good mobility out of that. If you want a slower build that's going to hit hard, you might want to go for something like hatched. It just, again, comes down to where you are as a player. Perk 1, we're going to go for Gung Ho, so you can get that faster sort of sprint while firing, transition nicely into an ADS there. Then Perk 2, we got Quick for that faster sprint speed. Not the most aggressive, but definitely the strongest out of all the SMGs. Now, one of my favorites post Season 5, the MP40. It wasn't directly touched, but because we saw nerfs to some of the top tier weapons, this is now more competitive than it has been in the previous seasons, and it just gets the job done. Great mobility, great damage, easy to use. We got the recoil booster, we got the short barrel on there as well, so it's nice and aggressive. Basic red dot yet again. Folding stock for the better sprint to fire and movement. I go for skeletal for the better ADS and slightly better movement. Gorenko 45, better movement, better fire rate, better ADS as well. Subsonic to stay off the radar. We got taped on here. We got perfectionist for the better control. Then we also got quick on here once more. Like I said, it's got all the boxes checked. Mobility, damage, control. It's all around very consistent. Now, probably my number 2 SMG in the game right now post Season 5 is the Blixen, but keep in mind, you know, 3, 4, 5, whatever you want to place those options as, they're all right there. Super, super competitive. Our Blixen setup now, though, is going to be more based around TTK. We got recoil booster and back to the RMK barrel. A little bit more recoil here. If you're not a fan of that, you could always go over to the custom. That won't be a bad choice. It's just going to kill a little bit slower, right? We're going for max TTK here, folks. So RMK barrel, we got the Slate Reflector, remove stock for the better mobility. I'm going to go ahead and run skeletal here. If you don't like the control with RMK, but you want that good TTK, hand stop would not be a bad choice. You could always try and use compact as well here if you wanted more of a strafe bonus there, but that's not going to really take advantage of the weapon's full capabilities here. Skeletal to me works well. I got the Gorenko 54. We're going to go for subsonic yet again alongside taped as well. Might as well get the repeat of quick out of the way. And then Perk 1, I like to go for fleet here. Perfectionist wouldn't be bad either because you don't really miss out on anything there, but movement is something clearly that I am a big fan of on all these builds, so I'm sticking with what I like there. The Marco, despite its nerfs, is also still holding its own as a top SMG. This thing just, it flies. And honestly, it still fries to a certain extent as well. Its damage is not as good as it was before Season 5, but it's still one of the more competitive options in the game. And again, we're going for that max TTK build. We got recoil booster. We got the 240 fire rate barrel here. Again, a little bit more control, but it does melt up close. We got Slate Reflector. We got the FR stock for the better movement and better initial control as well. Skeletal here once more. Again, changes you need depending on your control levels. Magazine, we got the 64 round drums. Gonna go for subsonic yet again. We got taped. We got quick, the usual lineup. And then Perk 1, I think all these kind of suck. I go for Gung Ho though, just to have that sprinting while firing because the mobility here is so good. You can get away with that relatively easily. Of course, the Arma, previously like a top 3 SMG up there with the Marco and Blixen, saw a slight nerf, but still super competitive here post Season 5, and that's why this close range meta is so consistent. You got all these options now to choose from, whereas before it was just the Marco, the Arma, and the Blixen, and now it's so much more wide open, and they're all so close to one another. Here, we got the recoil booster. I'm going for the Bodhi barrel, that damage increasing barrel, so its TTK also gonna feel very, very good. We got Slate Reflector. I'm going for the folding stock for the better sprint to fire and better movement speed. Yet again, we got skeletal per usual. You can go back and forth between the 60 or the 72 round mag here. 72 gonna have a better TTK, but mixed with the Bodhi barrel, that fire rate damage barrel, I'm not really a huge fan of how it feels. It's a little bit harder to use, so 60 to me just you know, brings that consistency. Surprise, surprise, we got subsonic, we got taped, we also have quick on here once more. I know, crazy stuff, right? Then Perk 1, I'm gonna go for sleight of hand. Hard scope doesn't really do much here, unfortunately. That faster reload does make it a little bit more aggressive. The only alternative setup here that I would maybe see is using the short barrel instead of the 315 if you want just a better strafe speed, but to me, this setup works well for close range for what it is. Excuse me. And then lastly, you already know we got the PPSH, the GOAT right now in the SMG category. Now, keep in mind, the Blixen, the Arma, the Marco, MP40, they're not far behind this thing, but I just love how the PPSH is feeling right now. I got the recoil booster. I've been using the rapid barrel and it goes crazy. The control is just rough, but you could also use the light barrel. You could use the 230 barrel. Mainly this is meant for hip fire, but you can get away with an ADS build with this. It's just gonna be a little bit slower than some of these other options. You could also use the 300 though for some nice consistency. Like every single barrel here is viable. It just depends on the build you wanna go after. Personally, I like the rapid barrel a ton and it's what I've been enjoying the most. I I also have the ISO 3P iron sights on here. They're a little bit goofy with like the circular top with the rapid barrel, but they work. You could always switch to a slate reflector though if you're not a big fan of them. Remove stock here, especially with the rapid barrel. You get that increased hip fire alongside the better movement, so you can transition from hip fire to ADS and just dominate. I do use the steady underbarrel now because it does help out again with hip fire, adding that factor in there, but also with the control, you get 2% horizontal and vertical, so it makes it a tad bit easier to use. We got the Nambu 71, of course. We got some Sonic. We've got, you guessed it, taped, and surprise, surprise, quick as well. Then perk 1, I go for fleet once more. Tight grip, not really doing much. You could use Nerves of Steel. That wouldn't be a bad option. To me, though, again, as I mentioned earlier, movement is just so important on these builds for close range. I go ahead and I run that. Also, the faster weapon swap is pretty clutch as well. That being said, that's the close range meta right now. One of the best diverse metas that we've had in this category in quite some time. That's going to wrap things up though. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, let me know by dropping a like on it. And if you are new to the channel or if you have not already subscribed, every day I got you covered with literally everything going on in COD. News, updates, loadouts, tips, you name it, you're going to find it right here. So feel free to hit that sub button and turn on those post notifications. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I will catch you guys later. Peace out.